We're going to bring on Armstrong Williams right now, my very good friend. He's been my friend for a very, very long time. He's there for me, I'm there for him. You know who he is. He's a very famous radio talk show host, also television. He is a public relations expert. He's the one that brought you Dr. Ben Carson. He was Ben Carson's manager. He's a great man. Armstrong, take it away. Armstrong, you can speak.
Okay, I just want to make sure you hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Now we lost the audio. Hold on for a second because we don't have the audio. This is the age of COVID-19. I think you hit mute.
Between people of different backgrounds to hash out different perspectives and arrive at mutually beneficial solutions. And with both sides listening and speaking, that's a part of the process. And that is the only way we can get to a better situation than what we find ourselves in today. We have to make our voices heard, but we cannot merely shout and raise a fist, and we cannot, in the same sentence, turn around and stew quietly in hate either. Is everything okay?
Yes, we hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to make sure, because I can't tell whether we're communicating here or not.
Yes.
Okay. We need to make our voices heard, but we cannot merely, as I said earlier, shout and raise fists, and we cannot, in the same sentence, turn around and stew quietly in hate, resentment, judgment, castigating people, calling people racist. We just cannot do that. We must speak out in a way that can be heard. Justice, and Larry, you know this, and America knows this, is a very cold word when it is limited to a divided spelling, but when it is unified as one word, it is pronounced just us. Yes, just us. And that qualifies all voices to be heard. Then qualified action must be taken. You know, what happened with George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, it didn't matter to me the race of Derek Chauvin nor the race of George Floyd. What happened to me is that no human being should be left with any officer of the law with their foot on a person's neck for almost 10 minutes. I mean, when we try to categorize, when we dehumanize our fellow citizens, or when we harm someone for no reason, and when we try to categorize it to race, what you're saying to people, that the only people who share that person's pigmentation can be outraged, and everybody else should just go away and be quiet. I was outraged because what happened to the human condition. We like to get caught up in what the person's color is, what their badge number is. What matters is that we must understand. We should be outraged over injustice. We've taken this issue of race and maligning people so far where people don't even feel the compassion. They don't even feel the empathy sometimes when someone is harmed and hurt, because sometimes they don't know what to say, because they don't know how the larger society is going to castigate them. And so we must speak out in a way where it has to be just us, because justice to me is a common cause. And if you follow Black Lives Matter, then you see that it has also been corrupted to prove a point that cannot be heard as it has been spoken and intended. You just lose it. So, for example, there have been these dangerous instances of police abuse of white citizens, of Asian citizens. It is not as if American blacks are the only ones that are harmed and disrespect and sometimes lose their lives at the hands of law enforcement, okay? I mean, you take the Danny, I don't know, people probably have never heard of Danny Shaver in Arizona, the botched no knock police raid and the killing of Rohingya Nicholas and Dennis Tuttle in Houston, Texas in 2019. Nobody cares about those issues because they just happen to be white. And unless it involves race, where the victim is black and the officer is white, only is there a moral outrage in the larger society. And so the same, the attention was not garnered the same as it was, let's say, with a George Floyd. It did not have the same black backlash. But we should be outraged no matter what the victim looks like. And so this disparity, in my opinion, highlights a significant problem in terms of values alignment. If we are genuinely attempting to move forward for a more just, equal, fair, balanced society, we have to start somehow breaking away from making everything about black and white, especially in America. We need to be equally outraged wherever there is any injustice in the world. And our perspectives must be less focused on the victim's race and more on our shared human dignity. We all possess this human dignity. We all know right from wrong. We know when something is outrageous. We know when an officer or someone has gone too far. But we also must hold people accountable who disrespect law enforcement, does not appreciate law enforcement, and also somehow believe because of this Black Lives Matter movement and some other movement, they don't have to adhere to a certain behavior, a certain character. When I encounter law enforcement officers, I always show them respect. I always show them a certain kind of humility because these guys are already under stress. I'm not saying they're perfect because all of us are imperfect, but at least we need to conduct ourselves in a way, all of us as Americans. And it has nothing to do with your skin. It has to do with a person's character because we are all born into it. And somewhere along the way, we were talked out of these values. Somehow or another, we lost these values. And sometimes some kids never get these values because they were not taught to them in their home. So as affirmed by our Constitution, these rights are inalienable. We cannot cede them to the state even when we want to. Human dignity, in my opinion, is an inherent quality that resides and hides or is illuminated in all of us. And hence, the more we see it in ourselves, the more we will see it in others. And this will bring it out much faster than the aggression we are showing in our current state of what I call belligerence as a country on fire. And as things stand now, there are far more instances of black criminals attacking and killing whites in this country. There are even more instances of black criminals attacking and killing blacks in this country. If one were to look at the numbers alone, one could surmise that blacks are infinitely more racist actors against other blacks than whites are, and certainly more racist than police are. But they're not racist because they're black or because of whatever. They're racist. It's because of their behavior. It's because what sometimes they get a pass on, and they're not held accountable for it in the schools and the homes, because we want to give people a pass because we want people to be perpetual victims. And so while these contextual issues, alignment with such organizations like BLM, authentic communications about values and identity conflicts, it sort of helps to frame the conversation. The central aim of what we're talking about today is that we've got to be about freedom, because as long as we discuss these issues of race and prejudice and bias, we never get around to the real issues that are undermining us in this country today. Whether it's about hackers, us losing our economy, the Chinese have poisoned the world with this COVID-19. I mean, there's so many issues that we don't get to discuss because we're so caught up in these fake issues like race, these human constructs that are created to keep us divided. And so we have to recognize that Americans, we may have come here on different boats, but we're all on the same ship now, and we either sink together or swim together. We are Americans, and we should put the interests of Americans first. And we must solve this divide. We're more segregated than we've ever been before. We're more divided than we ever been before. And some people, there are people that prosper from this. It has become an industry keeping people in these ghettos, dumbing down their schools, dumbing down their education, making excuses for them not to learn. We who have benefited, like many of us, from our economic system should not feel ashamed of our achievements. Instead, we should herald them as an example for others to follow and benefit from. We're not so much concerned with the plight of the poor and disenfranchised in terms of sort of addressing them in ways that assume an ordained inescapable plight. Instead, we are concerned, and we all have to be concerned with the transformation of the poor into productive, wealthy citizens of character, of integrity, and of honor. And this is the core and fundamental difference between a generation conservative that conserves the approach to outreach, philanthropy, and social policy, and the liberal one. I mean, listen, liberalism does not work in this country. Socialism does not work. We've got to celebrate and embrace capitalism. While capitalism may have its flaws, while it may be imperfect, from Israel to other places around the world, it is already shown that socialism does not work, because conservatives tend to look more to how we can create opportunities, conditions, and incentives to move our poor out of poverty and into prosperity. These socialistic policies keep them there. People pat them on the head, say, "You poor little thing, let me take care of you," instead of giving them the mechanism, giving them the framework, giving them the fundamentals to take care of themselves. So when we look at social policies surrounding the criminal justice system and policing, we should also be looking toward wealth creation, civic participation. We should also look towards not more welfare and government creation, but we must get away from these subsidies, and we must give people a real opportunity to create wealth, real opportunities to create jobs and build businesses in their communities where generations, so it can pass on from generation to generation. We have put a lot of our citizens in traps today. We make them feel as though they're perpetual victims. And these same programs, while they may be noble, while they may have the best of intentions, they absolutely do not work. And we've got to be in a position where we can tweak these programs to make them work for those that are least among us. Because we got to facilitate opportunities for leadership to show people all of the avenues of empowerment and economic advancement that are here, not just for us, but for everybody. Even more effective sort of in terms of making meaningful, positive social change than telling them to hold on and to fight for a past, because what they're fighting for is a past that no longer serves us in any way. It does not help us. The knee-jerk reaction by the media and large corporations and institutions has been to erect virtual wannabe badges, yes, wannabe badges, and other symbolic gestures to signal solidarity with Black Lives Matter rather than having the guts, rather than having the moral compass to stand up for what is morally and ethically right for all of mankind. This is especially true in the tech community and on the social media platforms. However, those businesses have traditionally had a terrible diversity problem in terms of the numbers of qualified minorities they actually hire and promote, and minority businesses they contract with. We have to get this younger generation back into STEM programs, science, technology, engineering, and math, where they learn real trades, real skills that can last them a lifetime. And as things stand now, there are far more instances of issues that we have more control over. If we get the government out of it, we get more corporations involved, we get people involved in entrepreneurship, and also back into the family structure. We all know that a two-parent household, a firm, strong family structure, while it may be imperfect, is the best foundation to ensure that a child has an opportunity at least realizing the American dream.
Armstrong, beautiful words, meaningful. You actually proposed action, not just words. That's why you're my friend, and that's why you're a great American patriot, because you're unafraid. Thank you.
Thank you.